the idea for this book actually came about while I was doing my research, while I was pursuing my PhD. So since I came to Germany as part of the DAD scholarship, so as part of the scholarship, it is compulsory for us to do a minimum of 9 months of field work as part of the entire PhD process. So in the process of 9-10 months in India, where I went to collect my data, I had like lots of data, but the entire thing could not be included as part of my PhD thesis. So at the end of my thesis submission, I had lots of data left. So I decided to convert that and do something with that. So I approached Rutledge Political Science Division and presented my and submitted my proposal. They said that they are interested in going ahead with the proposal, and then the entire process started. But it is definitely a part of the PhD process that I was participating in. My area of research has been political conflicts, conflict transformation, conflict management, state legitimacy, these kind of areas. On As part of that study, I work particularly on case studies of Maoism. That was part of my MPhil program also, and that is part of my PhD thesis also. In PhD, I focused particularly on state policies towards the Maoist and the Maoist movement that has been going on in India for the last 50 years. And in this particular book, I have dealt with three primary things. One is the positionality of the researcher, where me as a person belonging to the Bengali Bhadralok class, and how the entire Maoist movement is actually a fight against people like me. So my positionality in this entire field and in this entire research is very crucial, because I am part of the very process probably against which they are fighting. This is one. Second is the topic of legitimacy. The idea from the state's perspective is the Adivasis and the people who are part of this entire movement, they are simply brainwashed. So the moment we try to label this, we are actually denying them the agency. We are trying to say that we know better than them. We are wiser, and naturally they do not take their own decisions, as if the Maoist leaders who go to these forests and they try to brainwash these people, and the next day they try to follow the leaders. But that is not how it happens. It is a more complex phenomena. Because just to give you an example and to elaborate and make it more easy for the viewers to understand it, government has a policy of surrender and rehabilitation, where there is a particular sort of rehabilitation process which these ex-Naxalite cadres can go through. But when the state advertises this kind of policy, the state is okay with the concept of the fact that the Maoists are doing it by themselves, and that the state is not manipulating with them, that they are coming on their own will, that they are surrendering out of their own will. This is the logic that is given by the state. So why not this logic apply when it comes to the people joining the movement? So we kind of do not give this kind of credit to them, that when it comes to surrender, they are doing out of their own will, but when it comes to participating in the movement, they are not doing it. They are being brainwashed. So this is the concept of legitimacy that I have tried to deal in this topic, in this subject. And the third important thing that I have tried to deal with, the exclusionary nature of Indian politics. uh, Today, what we are seeing, what is going on in India, could be a machoistic manifestation of the exclusionary politics that we have been seeing for the last 70 years. um, Exclusion or exclusionary nature of Indian politics was never absent. It was always there. The Indian political class has always been these upper caste, upper class, educated people. Um, there have been elements, definitely, who are part of this process, but they have most of the time remained as outliers, as part of the periphery. But if you try to see within the earlier political parties who have been part of the central government, they are also most of the leaders. If you study their background, they have always been these belonging to this upper caste, upper class, elite kind of a background. Probably, again, not most of them, but quite a substantial section of the Indian political class. So, this exclusion nature of Indian politics has always been there. It was never absent. What we are seeing today is the machoistic manifestation of that nature. And definitely, there are other phenomena which is going on in today's time. So, these are the three particular aspects which I have tried to deal with this, because Maoism is a very common topic, and there have been many erudite scholars before me, many of my professors who have dealt with this topic and written like very good and wise books on this. So I wanted to make or write something different. So this is more a product of me putting myself as a researcher in the position, and try to see the problem from my perspective. So any probably any social science book is subject to subjective evaluation. I mean, maybe the way I see it would be very different from the way the other readers would see it. Uh, Definitely, there is a scope, there is an area which could be misinterpreted. For example, the exclusionary nature of Indian politics. Both the right as well as the left side of the political aisle could actually try to misinterpret it. Definitely, because I have also tried to evaluate Mahatma Gandhi, B.R. Ambedkar's, what has been their nature of politics, etc., in the book. So that is definitely an open challenge. Probably in today's time, when history is being rewritten, when history is being erased, so this is definitely something which I was also thinking when I was writing about the book. So I tried to consciously be aware of this fact and use my words in a certain way, use or wrote the sentences in a particular way so that the challenges could be minimized. But that is more from the establishment perspective. But if you try to see from the Maoist perspective also, because my idea was never to take sides. I mean, I know this is a very cliche term, and every researcher or every author tries to say this, but I have consciously done this because my aim in this book was to work on this entire idea and entire theorization of positionality. And in order to deal with positionality of me being as a researcher, it was important for me to conscious about my privileges that I have been brought up with, and what I was taking to the field. Because when I was talking to an ordinary Adivasi and trying to understand their perspective, it was very important for me at the same time to acknowledge my privileges. So and put that into the system, into the thought process. Otherwise, it would be very difficult. So and that is why I came up with the concept of caste mentality. It is very different from what we understand as caste as an institution. What I have tried to define caste mentality is this very exclusionary nature that we generally grow up with. I mean, there are when caste discrimination happens in India, there are laws in place which takes care of it. I mean, legally, we are not supposed to discriminate on the basis of caste. But what happens outside of this legal periphery is very common, is normalized. For example, in our bhadralok classes in houses, we have seen that there are separate stairs for the maids in our house. The maid in our houses are provided food or water in separate utensils. So these are very invisibilized forms of caste or this exclusion that we grow up with. But at the same time, we normalize it. We consider it as part of the culture. This may not have particularly anything to do with caste, because in Bengal, at least, or in Calcutta, we do not openly talk about caste that much. But it is very much ingrained in our thought process, it is very much ingrained in our behavior. And these are all examples of that. Be it a separate staircase, be it separate utensils, these might look very harmless at the outset, but if I am on the receiving end of it, I may not appreciate it. If I'm that maid who is being given provided food on a separate utensil day after day, year after year, and decade after decade, there will be some point of time where I will be very much disappointed with this entire system, and very much discouraged by what is going on at the same time. So, I mean, in this aspect, there's an interesting quote that one of the Maoists actually told me when I was visiting Jhargram, one of the hotbeds of the Maoist conflict during that point of time. So he actually told me that if the objective conditions are there, today it is Maoism, and today the state can wipe us out, but tomorrow it will take some other form. It will be something else. State always criticizes these kind of movements within a democratic setup, giving the rationale that violence is not something that we accept in a democratic forum, in a democratic setup. But if we just take a step back and try to analyze our political culture, it has always been fraught with violence. Even in our normal democratic political processes during our elections, we have seen violence, and violence has been very much institutionalized, very much may not be legally, but it is there. It has always been there. So to criticize on the basis of that is actually trying to put up two kind of rationale for two kind of logic that you are trying to put. It doesn't make any sense. So when a Maoist is going to the forest and trying to so-called brainwash the Adivasis, they are saying that, see, I mean, violence is practiced not by us. Violence is practiced by the state. It is we who are trying to secure you from this violence. We are trying to put your miseries out, and that is why we need this violence. So until and unless we try to modify these kind of structural conditions and these kind of structural rationale that we are trying to put forward, it is very difficult for us to get rid, if I may use the term, which may not be politically correct, but if I try to so called establish the peace process, it will not be possible. I mean, today, and I agree. I mean, if the today Maoism might be so-called wiped out, but tomorrow it will take some other form, and that is why we study conflict transformation. I mean, there are theories, established theories. We talk about conflict transformation. Today it is Maoism, tomorrow it might be something else, because the objective conditions are still there, and that is why there is a gap. Because the people who are born and who grow up with these kind of invisibilized forms of discriminatory behavior, it is these people who go and form the political class, it is these people who go and form the bureaucratic class, and it is they who make the decisions, who make their policies. And if the policies are made by the very people who are ingrained in these kind of exclusionary mindset and exclusionary thinking, it will be very difficult for the established class to bridge the gap and reach out to the people and try to understand the problem from their perspective. And until and unless we are able to do that, we are in a position to do that, it could be difficult. Today we have completed 50 years, it might be another 50 years before we actually start talking about peace. I have actually developed a couple of concepts, mentioned a couple of concepts in this book, and my next book idea is to develop on that and theorize on that, and try to find the gaps in the existing research and build upon those concepts, because I have been working on legitimacy, and I will try to continue my work on legitimacy and try and find the existing gaps and work upon that. That is my next proposal. Yeah.